If you're like the rest of us, you're thinking you've made it through the stress of another week. The job, the kids, the coworkers. We all held it together, but how many other people this week came close to losing it out there? Elizabeth, you met someone whose stress actually ignited something else.
That's right, David. And it started with something that so many of us can identify with. The sound of a newborn baby crying nonstop in the house. But this father took it to a whole new level and learned that if you play with fire, you get burned.
If you drive 4 hours north of Minneapolis through desolate and winding tree-lined roads, you will find the rural town of Babbitt, Minnesota, population 1,600. Nestled next to the Superior National Forest, just miles from the Canadian border.
It's a typical small town, like you go to the grocery store and 90% of the people in there you're going to stop and talk to.
Everybody knows each other. Sometimes everybody knows too much.
Hi, Ryan.
Hello.
Hi.
It was here that Ryan and Stephanie Scharber decided to raise a family. Ryan finding work at the local mine, he even became a volunteer firefighter. And within 3 years, he was chief.
And how many hours a month were you working as fire chief?
A lot.
I was gone all the time, yeah.
Those long hours at the fire station took him away from home just as his family was expanding. He and Stephanie welcomed son Miles first in 2009. Aiden arrived 2 years later. But Aiden's birth brought some unexpected stress at home that would later turn out to be the key to this father's downfall.
We noticed he was crying a lot more than usual, and then it turned into like nonstop screaming day and night. Like, I mean, 20 hours out of the day. It was extremely stressful. We kept bringing him back to the doctor, and they kept telling us it's colic.
And if that wasn't trouble enough, right around then, Ryan's work life got a lot more complicated too.
Between 2010 and 2012, there were an unprecedented number of suspicious fires in the Babbitt, Minnesota area.
39 fires in all. No one was hurt in those blazes, but the federal officials were taking it seriously.
A joint task force between federal agencies, state agencies, and local law enforcement commenced a joint investigation.
And Ryan was investigating too, even going on television to describe to Fox station KQDS his own role in the hunt for a serial arsonist.
Seeing if there's anybody suspicious hanging around or someone that's showing up on the same fires over and over again. There was quite a few that were started by an unknown. We don't know who started them. I spent a lot of time trying to figure that out.
As the months dragged on with no leads, investigators began gravitating toward a bizarre and disturbing theory that the fire starter could actually be a firefighter. Believe it or not, it happens more often than you'd think.
It's still a dirty secret. If you just do an online search, you will find about 100 firefighter arrests every year in this country for arson.
A part-time Falmouth firefighter has been arrested for arson.
Betrayal within the Brotherhood.
Firefighters are charged with arson.
Fire Chief Howard Roach was charged with starting the fire.
The theory that the Babbitt arsonist might actually be one of its firemen developed into suspicion on a cold December night when a car drove onto Madela's Birch Lake Resort, a fisherman's campground run by 79-year-old Don Madela.
So what did you notice that night?
I seen the brake lights come on, but the car didn't turn around to leave again, so I put my shoes on and come down and looked.
When you came down here, what'd you see?
Seen some tracks in the snow. Pretty soon he come from behind the garage.
And he was none other than Fire Chief Ryan Scharber.
Mr. Scharber told the resort owner he was there to urinate. It didn't make sense to the resort owner.
What he told me didn't jive with me.
After Scharber beat a hasty retreat, Don Madela followed his footsteps in the snow.
Up here where this garage is?
St. Louis County Sheriff's investigator Steve Heinrich showed us the scene.
Mr. Madela followed the tracks behind the shed there, and where the footprints stopped, right behind the tree, was the gas can.
What did you think he was doing back there with the gas can?
What do you think?
Starting a fire.
Didn't sound good.
Investigators for state and local agencies believed they had finally found their fire starter. Do you have any doubt that Ryan Scharber meant to set fire to the shed or this garage or that building?
No doubt. Probably with the pine trees and everything here would have spread to more than just the building.
To get to the truth, they eventually bring Ryan into his own firehouse and grill him.
For the first 2.5 hours of that interview, Mr. Scharber identified other individuals who might be the people setting these fires, and those individuals included firefighters and former firefighters.
With Ryan trying to deflect 2.5 hours into the interview, investigators tighten the screws. They confront him with that gas can he left behind at Matala's resort.
I never poured gas on anything. I never tried to light a match.
But you brought the gas can there.
Correct.
And went around the back of the building with the can.
Yeah, I went back to the back of the building when I saw the owner's flashlight coming down the hill.
So you got in that car and drove down there with the idea to set it on fire.
Yeah, I drove down there and I was definitely thinking about it.
With that admission, Ryan's secret life began unraveling. He confessed not just to the attempted arson at Matala's, but also to setting 9 fires in Superior National Forest. And get this, even more stunning than his crimes, his excuse. Ryan says the reason he turned to arson was the stress brought on by his constantly crying newborn son.
It was just when I was home and around the stress that caused me to go out and start the fires. When I was at work, I didn't have that.
People are going to say, I don't get this. I don't get it. Millions of babies around the world have colic. Their dads don't go out and set fires.
It was a legitimate way for me to get away for a couple of hours.
Why not go down to the firehouse and hang out with your fellow firefighters? How is it that you thought, I know, I'll go set a fire?
People are always coming to me for help. I was always solving everybody else's problems. I didn't realize that I needed a little bit of help myself.
Ryan Scharber took us out to the scene of one of his fires.
What made this place a good place to start a fire?
Just roll and away from everything, not close.
I see lots of trees, though. I mean, this could have spread, couldn't it?
You walk in there and it's marshy and wet and underneath, so it just kind of burned along the top.
But that attempt to minimize his crimes did little to extinguish federal prosecutor Dunn's determination to punish the disgraced fire chief, who he suspects has even more to reveal.
He's confessed to setting 9 fires. You think he's set more fires than that?
From 2010 to 2012, there were 39 suspicious fires in Babbitt, Minnesota. Since the time that he was caught, there have been 0.
Ryan was charged with setting fire to federal land and attempted arson. Initially, a psychologist labeled him as a pyromaniac, but later revised that diagnosis.
So if you're not a pyromaniac, what are you?
It was diagnosed as a temporary adjustment disorder.
A temporary adjustment disorder?
It's like considered a short-term mental illness brought on by acute stress.
It's my strong opinion that he didn't start lighting fires 3 years ago. And I believe he'll be at risk for lighting fires in times of stress until he's 80 years old.
With his career and reputation up in smoke, Ryan took a job stocking shelves at the local grocery store. Earlier this month, he learned his fate: 5 years in a federal prison. Ryan and Stephanie now have 3 children, all under the age of 5. When Ryan gets out, he will have missed more than half of their young lives.
All the daily activities, I mean, taking a walk to the park, or just the fact that I'm not here to help my wife.
And what do you say to people watching who might say, you know what? You should have thought of all that before you went around setting fires.
In the right state of mind, I would have thought about that. But I wasn't myself.
So, what do you think? A real psychological disorder or just a man who needs to learn some control? We're tweeting live during tonight's show, so let us know using the hashtag ABC2020.